Stop driver 1, send me bars and 1K tone at 33 megahertz.
Copy 1. Transmitting at 33.
Base, this is top driver 2.
Go for me.
We're at test pad with the team offloading now.
Copy 2. Copy 1.
Good morning, top drivers. Ready to put in a day's work today?
Chuck, it's Rob. We're getting the tarp off now.
This is the chief mechanic.
As soon as you can, get it down to the track.
Way ahead of you.
Oil pressure is good. Engine temperature within
DCAM, go to 220.
Looking good, gang. We're gonna go as far as daylight will permit, guys. But we do need to rush it up here.
Chopper 1, status.
Chopper 1 in position and standing by.
Pace, this is Shuttle. Bringing Elisa to test car now.
What have we got?
You got 4 new tires and it's ready to go. Okay, buckle up. We'll see you at the start.
I'll be on the bridge.
Chuck, we got Elisa in the car and we're back to 1.
Base, this is Chopper 1. Winds are holding steady at 2 knots south-southeast. Camera platform at 0 level.
Looking good, gang. Let's shoot the oversteer.
D camera open up to 28 millimeter. Chopper 1, go to jump.
We're going for oversteer.
You got it.
Q, Angie, you ready?
Well, I'm ready when you're ready.
Chuck, we need to rehearse one for audio.
Copy that.
On the track, if you have even a second left, you have...
Go ahead.
It's gonna be a long day.
Start over, okay?
Sure.
All right, let's everybody clear out of the way and let's do this.
Yeah, copy that. Okay, this is it. Everybody on your marks.
Rob, let you guys know I'm sending in the water truck.
Transmitter on.
Go.
Q, Angie.
On the track, if you have even a half second
Okay,
left...
Elisa, let's do it again.
Find yourself in a lot of trouble.
Running, standing by.
We are rolling.
On the track. Good driver still has to be focused every second of the time.
Remember, these are trained professionals. Do not try this at home.
Engaging oversteer.
Initiate correction.
Correction engaged.
Reverse steering.
Fin is corrected. Vehicle is straightening out. Yeah, that felt like a good one.
All right, kids, it just doesn't get any better than that.
Chuck, I'm coming in. I want to see what we got.
We got it all. Come on.
Hello and welcome to the Top Driver program. We just got a glimpse of Module 5, but let's start at the beginning. Each person must have their own individual workbook and test sheet. Make sure you've got yours now. Okay, here we go. One of the most dangerous things you can do on any given day is get in your car and drive. I mean, if it wasn't for the other drivers who aren't as capable or conscientious or well-trained as you, there just wouldn't be a problem, right? Yeah, right. Look, if you're already a perfect driver, if you're always in complete control of a vehicle, if you already know what the professional drivers and trainers know about getting the most out of your car and avoiding problems on the road, if you never let your concentration slip, look, if you're already that good, stop watching this video. Go catch a movie or eat a sandwich or something, all right? Punch up the 10-point safety check, all right? Oh, I see you're still with us. Smart move. We're going to show you why things happen the way they do, and we're going to give you the knowledge that you need to become a safer, more skilled driver. We're going to help you become a top driver. Safe defensive driving is mostly common sense. Case in point, everybody knows it's a good idea to do a quick pre-driving check. Before you get in your car, look around outside. A quick check will help you make sure that there's no obstacles in the way, like playing children, sleeping animals, or misplaced garden tools. And make sure that your windows, your headlights, and your taillights are clean. Check to see that your tires are properly inflated. And make sure that your car isn't leaking any suspicious fluids. So what does it normally take, what, 10, 15 seconds? And you can do most of that when you're walking up to the car anyway. And once you're inside your vehicle, you should have a regular routine that you follow every time. Here's a suggested 10-step procedure, and you can make adjustments to fit your own situation. No, you can't skip it altogether. 1, fasten your safety belt and make sure that your passengers have done the same. 2, adjust your seat if necessary. 3, make sure that your doors are fully closed and locked. 4, check your adjustment on your head restraint if you have them. 5, check to make sure all your mirrors are adjusted properly. 6, start your engines. I've always wanted to say that, start your engines. Start your engines. 7, check to make sure that your windows are clean and clear. If not, use defroster or windshield wipers. 8, scan your gauges and make sure none of your idiot lights are on. Hey, it's just an expression. Anyway, if you aren't entirely sure what these lights indicate, check your owner's manual. 9, adjust the vents, windows, and heater and air conditioning for your own comfort. And 10, make an attitude check. If you're feeling stressed or anxious, take a deep breath and try to put your problems aside so you can focus on your driving. Okay, some of this stuff is pretty obvious, but there are good reasons for every one of these steps. For instance, taking the time to adjust your head restraint. It should be slightly above your ears. It can reduce the risk of whiplash if you ever get involved in a collision. It's important to have your seat adjusted properly for a couple of reasons. Chuck, can you get into that for us?
That's right, Rob. If you're comfortable, you're going to be able to maintain a higher level of concentration for a longer period of time. If you're not, you're more likely to lose concentration, and you'll be losing some valuable feedback from your vehicle. That's right. You actually feel pressure, movement, road changes, and the like right through the seat of your pants. So if you want maximum feedback, and you do, whether you're on the racetrack or the highway, and you need everything adjusted properly, here's how you adjust your seat. First, move the seat fore or aft. You're in the right position if you can grip the steering wheel naturally with both arms slightly bent at the elbows, and you can push down the clutch pedal all the way to the floor without fully extending your leg. If you're driving an automatic, you should be able to rest your foot on the floor without stretching out your leg. The seat back should be as upright as possible without being uncomfortable. Race car drivers call this the attack position, where you're really alert and able to quickly respond to whatever your car is telling you. We're not talking tense here, but driving is not a time to be laid back. Remember, these days your vehicle is a high-performance machine. You ought to be one too. One quick way to check your position is to put the brake of your wrist at 12 o'clock. If you're pulling yourself off the seat back, you're a little too far away. Proper hand position depends on the configuration of your steering wheel to a certain extent, but you should aim for placing your hands at either 10 and 2 or at 3 and 9. If you're headed for a winding road with a lot of tight corners, 3 and 9 gives you better steering control on turns. Sure, it's clear why the mirrors and the seat all need to be adjusted to your height and position. So how come most people don't even look into their mirrors until they're already on the highway? What a great time to be adjusting mirrors. The rear view mirror needs to be adjusted so it takes in as much of the rear window as possible. When it's adjusted properly, you should only need to move your eyes, not your head, to use it. If you're over 6 feet tall, you might find it helpful to flip the mirror 180 degrees so that the day-night switch is on the top. That'll raise the mirror about 2 inches and eliminate a potential blind spot behind the mirror. Check to see if the vehicle's trim or door handle is just barely visible on the inside edge of your side mirrors. Try to adjust the mirrors so that when the vehicle is passing you on either side, you're able to see its front end in one of your side mirrors just as its front end is leaving your rear view mirror. Even properly adjusted mirrors won't eliminate blind spots completely. So always check blind spots over your shoulder before making a move into traffic.
A word about gauges. All you have to do is be able to tell at a glance if something's changed from where it should be. You're looking for consistency. One more thing, that's right, yeah. You, the driver, are you angry, distracted, upset? Whatever's causing you emotional stress, put it aside so you can focus on getting to your destination without hitting somebody. Look, when you're driving, you're driving. Yeah, I know. Some of you are thinking, great, if you got the time to go through all that. Trust me, you've got the time. In this case, an ounce of prevention is worth your life. Watch this. Cue it up. Bottom line, a good driver doesn't skip it. Now comes the hard part, actually trying to survive on the streets. Streets that are full of vehicles driven by people who often don't know what they're doing or aren't even paying much attention. It's not an impossible mission, but your assignment, should you choose to accept it, is to take on the challenge of driving safely with skill and understanding. If you're a good defensive driver, you do everything you can to prevent a collision, in spite of the actions of the other drivers around you. Always be on the lookout for potential problems. Watch drivers who are erratic or speeding, who seem inattentive, drunk, or emotionally charged. Other warning signs might be civilian race cars, modified vans, or souped-up vehicles. Just as potentially dangerous are vehicles with excessive dents, bad smudges, tires, windows, all which can indicate an irresponsible or possibly uninsured driver. Cars full of teenagers, rowdy adults, or small children are more likely to have a distracted driver behind the wheel. When you see stuff like that, you can probably predict what kind of driver you're going to encounter, or at least the behavior that's going to be erratic. You're not in competition with the other drivers. If they're racing for an open space in the lane, let them win. Give the other driver the benefit of the doubt and an occasional break, because you'll find that it's often contagious. The best course of action when you spot potential trouble is to remove yourself from the situation. Give yourself plenty of open space. Do what you have to do as long as it's safe and legal to separate yourself from the problems or congestion. Look, here's the bottom line. About 77% of all car crashes are due to driver error. At least you don't have to be the one that makes that error. Hey, you're going to be a top driver.
Punch up Mod 1 summary. At the end of each Top Driver module, we'll have a Top Driver quick review, where we highlight the 6 important points from that module. Here we go with the quick review for Module 1. Mind a machine. Number 1, safety checks. Before you get in your car, take a look around outside looking for hazards. And once inside, do your 10-point safety check. Number 2, proper hand position. Keep your hands at either 9 and 3 or 10 and 2. 9 and 3 is going to give you better control on windy roads. Number 3, adjust your mirrors before you start driving. And remember, properly adjusted mirrors won't eliminate blind spots completely, so check over your shoulder before changing lanes. Number 4, scan your gauges. Be familiar with what looks normal and be able to tell at a glance if something has changed from where it should be. Number 5, driver attitude. Don't take your emotions on the roadways. Take a moment, see how you're feeling. If you're stressed, put your problems aside. And number 6, be aware of other drivers. Look for erratic drivers, dangerous vehicles, and hot riders. Give them a lot of extra room.
Hi, I'm Anthony Edwards, and I'm a top driver.
Every state motor vehicle code has a section that spells out the rules of the road, speed limits, passing rules, right-of-way, laws, regulations that are always in effect, even when there aren't any signs, signals, or markings around. If you're a responsible driver, you know those rules. Let's start with the obvious. Traffic signs are symbols, designed for easy understanding with uniform shapes and colors so you can tell them at a glance.
You see a red octagon and you stop. You see a green light and you go. Regulatory signs, usually either red or white, tell you what you can or cannot do. These include speed limit signs, stop signs, no U-turn, and do not enter. The yellow warning signs are there to alert you to specific road, environment, and traffic conditions, like intersections, pedestrian or animal crossings, and merging traffic. Orange construction and maintenance signs let you know of impending slowdowns and potential hazards. Guide signs, which come in several shapes and are most often blue, brown, or green, provide a wide variety of information, like miles to the next town and freeway entrances and exits.
A quick word about traffic lights. You've got 3 colors. Red means stop, and of course green means go ahead and enter the intersection if it looks safe. But, contrary to popular belief, yellow does not mean step on it so you can be at least halfway through the intersection before the light turns red. If you've ever decided you were going to speed up to make the light, only to find at the last second that the car in front of you has decided not to, well, you only do that once. A yellow light means slow down and prepare to stop. Another thing that many drivers seem to have trouble with are the yellow lines that separate a divided road. A broken yellow line on your side of the road means you can pass anytime it's safe. A solid yellow line on your side means it's not okay to pass, even if you're sure no other cars are approaching.
Right-of-way laws exist to help drivers know who should go first in a number of situations. But being in position so the other driver is supposed to yield the right-of-way to you doesn't mean you should always take it. Every driver on the road has an obligation to do everything he or she can to prevent collisions and injury to others. Being right will be small consolation to your friends and relatives after the fact. Of course, maybe your tombstone could read, "It wasn't his fault. He had the right-of-way." Use your head. Always be ready to yield.
If there are stop or yield signs present, obey them, but don't make the mistake of assuming that the other person is going to heed those signs.
The standard rule is when two vehicles arrive at an unmarked intersection at about the same time, the driver of the vehicle on the left is supposed to yield to the vehicle on the right. Practice that whenever you can.
Look, don't count on the other driver to do it.
If you're entering a roadway from a parked or standing position or from a parking lot, shopping area, alley, or private drive, you have to yield to motor vehicles on the road you're entering and to pedestrians on the sidewalk.
Merging with freeway traffic is a two-way deal. We're really talking about a blending of vehicles to maintain a smooth flow of traffic. Merging requires that both the driver on the freeway and the one who's entering adjust their speed and position to avoid the possibility of a collision. There are lots of individual right-of-way situations. Check your local driver's manual for the specifics.
When you exceed the speed limit, you're greatly increasing your chances of a crash. In fact, a quarter of all fatal collisions involve speeding. And every time you go 65 in a 55-mile-per-hour zone, you're increasing your odds of being in one by 31%. And sometimes you need to drive below the posted limits. That's right, I'm talking about the basic speed law that applies everywhere in the country. No vehicle may be driven on any highway at a speed that's faster than is reasonable and proper for the actual conditions, or that would endanger the safety of any person or property. That means going too fast, and it means going too slow. Think out there. Under some circumstances, you just have to slow down, regardless of the posted limits. If you want to go slower than all those drivers behind you, just pull over and let them pass. The point is, if you're going too fast or too slow for the conditions, you're breaking the law. Laws about stopping for school buses vary from state to state. Learn the ones that apply in your state, but use your head. Don't expect kids to be watching out for you. Slow down when you come upon a school bus on a two-lane road. And if it's loading or unloading children, stop. Bicycling now is the #1 sporting activity in the United States. Bicycles have limited stopping and steering abilities. Allow them more time and space to respond, and especially watch out for children who might lack skill and experience. As a motorist, you also have a legal and a moral responsibility to take every precaution to avoid hitting pedestrians. And don't try to anticipate what a pedestrian might do. Remember, many of them don't drive, especially children and elderly people, and they don't know what a driver can or can't do. Also, watch out for animals. They can't read signs, and they don't understand right-of-way. Driving's not a right, it's a privilege. Act accordingly. And who knows, it's an attitude that might just catch on.
Okay, it's time for the Top Driver Quick Review. Number 1, know your signs and traffic signals. Regulatory signs, warning signs, construction signs, and guide signs. Number 2, right-of-way. This involves knowledge, intuition, and diplomacy. When you're entering traffic, yield to the vehicles on the road and pedestrians. Number 3, know when to yield. Sometimes you have to yield even when you have the right-of-way. Don't turn other drivers' bad or illegal driving into an accident. 4, merging with freeway traffic. Approach freeways at freeway speed. If it's congested, slow down. Regardless, always try to blend smoothly with the flow of traffic. Number 5, and this is really important to remember, every time you go 65 in a 55 zone, you're increasing your odds of being in an accident by 31%. And number 6, be aware of your surrounding conditions. There are a lot of things that can get in your way besides another car. Be on the lookout for pedestrians, bicyclists, and animals.
Hi, I'm Al Unser Jr., two-time Indy 500 winner and two-time IndyCar World Series champion. I'm looking forward to seeing you as a fellow top driver on the road soon.
There's a lot of concepts and phrases that have become commonplace among professional racers and professional driving instructors. We think these terms ought to be just as common among highly skilled everyday drivers, you know, like us. We're not talking about things you really ought to know already, like yield or blind spot. Besides, you can look up that stuff in your driver's manual. No, what we're going to take a look at here are terms you need to know and ideals you'll want to adapt to your own driving technique. These are key concepts that will help you to better grasp the insider explanations and descriptions you'll encounter in Top Driver's Defensive Driving Skills program. We've divided them into two categories. One, high-performance driving terms, and two, concepts that should become part of your defensive driving mindset. Of course, there's a lot of overlap, but don't worry if you haven't committed every one of these terms to memory by the end of this session. Most of them will be handled again in other modules and support materials. Let's do it. Adhesion is the serious race driver's term for traction or friction. That is, how much grip the tires of a vehicle have on the road surface. Hydroplaning, on the other hand, happens when there's a layer of water between your tires and the road and you lose all your adhesion. This is definitely not cool. Oversteer is a rear wheel skid or slide. That is, when you have adhesion on the front wheels, but the back wheels have lost traction. You're turning the steering wheel a little, but the car is turning a lot. Understeer is a front wheel skid. Your vehicle has traction on the rear wheels, but you've lost it on the front wheels. You're turning the wheel like mad, but the car keeps going dead straight. Target fixation is a common affliction for most drivers who go into a skid or who are otherwise momentarily out of control. It's a natural tendency to look, usually wide-eyed, at the very object you don't want to hit. Most of the time, that's exactly where your vehicle's going to end up. The secret is to always focus your attention on the place you do want to go, like an open area or something relatively soft. Line refers to the imaginary line that marks the path of travel over a race course or a road, especially through corners. On the track, you aim to shorten your line by straightening out the corners as much as possible. Within reason, that's also a good idea for you when you're facing curvy country roads. Just make sure you stay in your lane when you do it. The apex area of a corner is the part of a corner where your vehicle is in its most stable position. In racing, professional drivers strive to find an apex that will allow them to arrive at the corner's best exit point where they'll get full acceleration the quickest. Cadence braking is a method of stopping your non-ABS vehicle more safely than normal without locking up your brakes and going into a skid. Put the brakes on full until just before you feel them start to lock up, then ease off all the way. And repeat this process as rapidly as you can and as many times as it takes to slow your vehicle down enough or to come to a safe stop. Covering the brake is when you keep your brake foot poised over the brake pedal, not pressing down, but ready to respond. This can significantly increase your ability to react. But be careful not to rest your foot on the brake. That's going to cause excessive brake wear. A tire contact patch is the area on the bottom of the tire that's in direct contact with the road. Depending on the transfer of the weight of the car to the rear from acceleration, to the front from braking, and to the side from turning, because of the location of the weight, one tire can have a different contact patch than the other three. Weight transfer is a critical element in understanding how a vehicle responds and performs. The weight of your vehicle shifts to the front during braking, to the back during acceleration, and to the side during a turn. Look, it's a lot of stuff to try to swallow all at once. You'll become more familiar with these terms as we progress through the modules. It's time to move off the racetrack and onto the streets. You're overdriving your headlights when you're driving so fast at night or in the fog that you can't stop within the range of your headlight beams. You might as well be staring at your rearview mirror. The appropriate timed interval between you and the car in front of you is 2 seconds in ideal circumstances. Any closer than that, and you're looking for trouble. Of course, the 3 or 4 second interval allows even more room to avoid problems. Find a stationary object next to the road ahead. When the vehicle in front of you passes it, start counting. You should be to at least 1,002 when you pass that same object. Head checks are those quick glances over your shoulder to make sure the blind spots are clear before you change lanes. The searching technique is when you're constantly looking and thinking 10 to 12 seconds ahead so you know what's happening up ahead well before it happens to you.
ABS stands for anti-lock braking system. It keeps your wheels from locking up even when you stand on the brakes. And that allows you to steer around an obstacle instead of skidding into it, a huge advantage. But remember, ABS brakes will not stop you any quicker, and there are even occasions where anti-lock brakes may mean a slightly longer stopping distance. But what they do give you is the ability to maintain control and directional stability over your vehicle in a panic braking situation. And that could be just enough to keep you out of a collision.
A safety stop is an option you should exercise after you've made your legal stop at an intersection and move to a position where you can better scan the intersection. If it isn't clear, make a second stop, the safety stop. Space management is the practice of keeping a reasonable open space in front, behind, and on either side of your vehicle whenever possible. Whenever you've stopped in any type of traffic, line up the leading edge of your hood with the bottom of the rear tires of the vehicle in front of you. This gives you what's called a tire view or tire concept. You should be able to see the pavement under the tires. You do that, and if you get hit from behind, you won't likely be pushed into the vehicle in front of you. And if it stalls, well, you can easily move around it and avoid getting trapped. Of course, if you're driving some other type vehicle, say a van with minimal hood protrusion, you need to leave yourself more room. A vehicle length is good. That's plenty for now. Some of this stuff might be old hat to a few of you. Hopefully, these are no longer alien concepts to the rest of you. Anyway, you'll be hearing many of these terms a lot in the following modules and as you go through the other Top Driver materials. Now let's give you the Top Driver quick review. Number 1, tire adhesion. That's the professional's term describing a tire's traction to the road, or how much grip the tires of a vehicle have on a road surface. 2, head checks. When you're changing lanes or merging, use your mirrors. Look over your shoulders for other vehicles and hazards. Number 3, target fixation. If you suddenly find a hazard right in front of you, force yourself to look where you want to end up. Don't fixate on the very thing you don't want to hit. 4, timed interval. When the vehicle in front of you passes a stationary object, you should be able to count 2 seconds before you pass the same object. Number 5, searching technique. Constantly search 10 to 12 seconds ahead of you, always looking for potential hazards. And number 6, space management. Keep a nice cushion of air all around your vehicle, front and back, and on the sides too.
It's important to be a top driver. That means that you're in control and driving defensively.
On the track, if you have even a half-second lapse of concentration, you could find yourself in a lot of trouble. Believe it or not, on the road, just like on the track, a good driver still has to be focused every second of the time.
The point is, when we're driving, driving has got to be what we're thinking about. It's important that we don't get distracted and lose track of what's going on in front of us or behind us or around us.
Another key lesson we can pick up from the professional racers is the importance of doing everything accurately and smoothly. In fact, often when novice racers back off the speed a little, they find that they get better lap times. You know why? It's because they can be smoother and more precise on the brake, on the gas, and the steering wheel. They're more in control and they make fewer errors. Of course, the same thing's true with us. I mean, to be smooth, you've got to be relaxed, and you've got to be looking and thinking ahead. Something happens in front of you, and you're not taken by surprise, and you know what? If you work on being able to brake without causing that annoying last-minute grab, if you take corners fluidly, if you're aware of the big picture, well, you're going to discover something very cool. All of a sudden, driving's fun again. And don't worry, all those concentration tasks, they'll soon become second nature. Doing things smoothly, reacting quickly, all that becomes part of muscle memory.
You know, keeping in focus is really critical. Whether you're in the last lap of a 100-mile race or just a few blocks from home, it's really important in your everyday driving to always think at least 10 or 12 seconds ahead. The idea is to look further ahead, think further ahead, and therefore you can react to any problems on the road and avoid dangerous surprises. Besides, the more you are aware of what's going on around you, the more in control you feel and the more in control you really are.
Remember that defensive driving means doing everything you can to anticipate and avoid potential collisions and conflicts, and you can't do that unless you stay focused.
With 4 adults in an average car, you're moving about 4,000 pounds down the highway.
At speeds approaching a mile a minute, sometimes faster. The more you understand about how all that weight shifts during the various maneuvers you're going to put your vehicle through, well, the better chance you have of staying in control. And actually, the concept of weight transfer is pretty simple. When you're cruising along on a flat surface, the weight of your vehicle is pretty evenly balanced front to rear. The weight distribution of a typical front engine car will be about 60% in the front and 40% in the rear. As you can see by the tire contact patches, you have fairly uniform traction on all 4 tires. Since each of those tire contact patches is about the size of your hand, and that's the only contact your vehicle has with the road, you can see why it's so critical to control the weight distribution as much as you can. As soon as you get on the accelerator a little, the weight is transferred to the rear. Now, this adds weight to the back tires and takes it off the front tires, which means you have less traction on the front end and more traction on the rear end.
Taking a look at this freeze frame, we can see acceleration shifts the weight of the vehicle to the rear. Naturally, this means if there's more weight on the rear tires, you're going to have a larger tire contact patch on the rear tires and a smaller than normal contact patch on the front tires. What all this means is when you accelerate, traction on the rear wheels is increased and traction on the front wheels is decreased.
When you hit the brakes, the weight flies to the front, loading the front tires and unloading the rear tires, so more of your traction is now on the front tires.
Okay, looking at this freeze frame, we can see that in braking the weight is thrown forward, and braking also affects the tire contact patches. The front tires have larger than normal contact patches, and the rear contact patches are smaller than normal. That means traction on the rear wheels is decreased during braking, and traction on the front wheels is increased.
Turning the vehicle will cause you to shift the weight balance over to the opposite side from which you're turning, and that gives you more traction on one side of your vehicle than on the other.
So, what that means in simple terms is when you turn your vehicle to the left, the weight shifts to the right. And when you turn to the right, the weight of your vehicle shifts to the left. Let's look at how turning affects traction. When you're in a left-hand turn, you've got more traction on the right tire, and in a right-hand turn, you've got more traction on the left tire.
Okay, the point is you do have the ability to control the weight distribution of your vehicle by using the brake to move it forward, the accelerator to move it back, and the steering wheel to move it from side to side.
So far we've been talking about weight transfer as it relates to downward pressure on the road. The tire patches reflect how the car's weight is distributed on the driving surface, but that's not the whole story. See, the densest and the heaviest part of your vehicle is the engine, and its placement, front, mid, or rear, is critical in how your specific car will handle. What we're dealing with here is momentum. When your vehicle is moving at a fairly high rate of speed, its heaviest component, the engine, is going to be a big factor in how the vehicle will handle, especially on the turns. That means, among other things, that a front engine car is more likely to understeer, go straight when you're trying to make a sharp turn. And a rear engine vehicle is going to have a built-in tendency to oversteer or spin. Its engine momentum carries it forward in a straight line while you're trying to turn the front end. So the point is, you've got to know your own vehicle. Its engine placement is going to directly affect its handling tendencies, especially during a crisis situation. Always try to do your hardest braking while you're going straight. So as you begin your turn, release the brake to move some weight to the rear tires to balance the chassis.
If you're braking and you're turning, you're in trouble. It's real important to brake in a straight line and then try to make your turn.
Now, too much of either function, braking, accelerating, or steering, will get you into trouble. The best drivers have learned they have to use all the functions smoothly and fluidly together. Think about all the controls, the brakes, the gas, the steering, as more like the volume control on your stereo, not on and off switches. In other words, when you're feeding on the intensity and easing off the intensity, each one blends with the other. In order to really control the controls, you've got to know your vehicle. You've got to be fully aware of its little quirks and nuances, and you've got to understand the basic physics of your vehicle. Okay, you get the point. Know your vehicle. Make sure you work the controls, that's the brake, the accelerator, and the steering wheel, with confidence and maybe even a little elegance, and you'll find driving will become one heck of a lot more fun. And remember, the best drivers, the top drivers, are smooth operators. Be one.
Okay, let's review. Number 1, focusing on your driving. When you're moving down the road, your hands have got to stay on the wheel and your eyes have got to stay on the road. Number 2, weight distribution as it relates to the engine placement. Your engine's the densest part of your car. Its placement, either front, mid, or rear, will dramatically affect your car's handling. Number 3, tire contact patches. That's the area of the tire in contact with the road. Each of the 4 tire contact patches vary in size during turning, acceleration, and braking. Number 4, weight transfer during braking and acceleration. The weight of your vehicle shifts to the rear during acceleration, and it shifts forward to the front of your vehicle during braking. Number 5, weight shift during turning. The weight of your vehicle is thrown to the right during a left-hand turn and to the left during a right-hand turn. And number 6, brake before the turn. As you're headed towards a turn, brake before the turn in a straightaway. Then if it's safe, let up on the brakes as you begin your turning.
Hi, I'm Jimmy Vassar. Everybody on the road today should be a top driver.
Other than sitting in your driveway, the most comfortable driving condition is when you're smoothly squeezing on the gas, head down a flat highway with your car nicely balanced, all 4 tire contact patches are pretty much even, and you've got plenty of traction. You're in complete control. That's a nice picture, huh? Well, that's the most comfortable context for a race car driver, too, the straightaways. But they can't relax, though, because as soon as they're heading straight, they got to head for that tough corner ahead. There are 3 basic elements to any corner, and every top driver needs to know them. First, you got to pick the point where you're going to enter the corner. It's called the entry or turn down point. Then you need to find the best apex of the corner, not the exact center of the curve. You're looking for the most efficient area for clipping the inside of the curve. It usually happens a little past the halfway point. That's why they refer to it as the late apex. And lastly, you need to locate your best exit point, the point where your vehicle straightens out once again.
What we try to do on the track, and what you want to do on the road, is to straighten out those corners. Use more of the road to make your path less of a curve. On a right-hand corner, for instance, you want to start near the left-hand edge of your lane, bring the car into the right-hand edge, and let the car all the way out to the left-hand edge coming out. So your line is outside to inside to outside. Of course, you have to adjust the extent of your line through a corner if you're contending with other vehicles. The point is to make the maneuver smoothly and safely.
You and I naturally want to straighten out the corner to make the maneuver as smoothly and as safely as possible. So it makes perfect sense to look through the entire corner before you enter, to make sure that the path is clear. What if somebody's changing a tire, or there's a dog on the road? Of course, you'll be doing this anyway because you're controlling your speed and you're using your proper searching techniques, looking 10, 12 seconds ahead. Pick your apex point as soon as possible and keep your eye on it. One of the most common problems drivers have is they turn too early and they find themselves turning more and more as they go through the corner. Ever find yourself frantically tightening up on the steering wheel the last half of a corner? Well, that means you've either turned in or apexed too early.
Sure, it feels better to get to the inside of the corner as early as possible. The inside just feels safer because you got a lot of road between you and the edge. It also feels faster because you're getting to the inside of the corner quicker, but both of those feelings are wrong. There are a couple of reasons to take a late apex line. On the track, we do it to maintain control without sacrificing too much speed. On the roadway, we do it because it's safer. In everyday driving, it can be very important. A late apex greatly increases stability because you're coming out of the corner straighter. Most corners on your typical winding road are blind corners. So taking a slightly late apex is simply the safest way to go.
Cue Lisa. Okay, here's the sequence. First, you brake smoothly in a straight line approaching the corner. Then you turn into the corner, heading for your chosen apex. And finally, you accelerate out of the corner. The thing is, these aren't separate activities. I mean, you're going from one function to the other, seamlessly, almost simultaneously. And as soon as you've eased off the brake, you begin to squeeze on the gas a little, smoothly switching from brake to throttle, all the while steering smoothly through the corner.
You should do the majority of your braking in a straight line before you enter the corner. But you should gradually diminish your braking as you enter the first third of the turn. This is also where you need to be doing your steering into the corner. Your car will be better balanced. You'll be able to smoothly roll on the gas. You'll be comfortably in control longer. It also helps you to see what's coming up on the other side of the corner sooner. The quicker you're able to see a potential problem, the better.
Probably the worst enemy of the everyday driver is the brakes. That's right, they cause a lot more problems than they cure, and it's mostly due to misuse. In everyday driving, surprise, you should apply your brakes smoothly and evenly, and train yourself to do it right. Pretend you have a cup of very hot coffee balanced precariously on your dashboard, and you brake so smoothly it won't end up in your lap. If you have fully functioning anti-lock braking system, you have a definite advantage. Even if you slam on your brakes too hard, you shouldn't lock up your rear wheels, but you might spill that coffee. You see, ABS is particularly valuable in bad weather, slippery conditions, or bad roads, but you're not necessarily going to stop any sooner, but you might be able to steer your way out of trouble. But remember, when ABS is working hard, you're going to feel strange vibrations, hear disconcerting noises. See, that's the way it's supposed to be. Don't try to smooth out with ABS. Stand on the brakes, okay? You understand that, right?
One of the 2 most common skids is the front end skid. Called what? Yes, that's right, understeer.
The best cure for this problem is to make sure you have anti-lock brakes. But let's assume that you don't have ABS, since many vehicles on the road don't. The question is what do you do if you go into a front wheel skid? First of all, you got to get traction back to the front end. The problem is when you head into a corner too fast or hit a patch of ice, your first instinct is to jam on the brakes. That's okay if you don't lock them up. But remember, just coming off the gas in order to step on the brake is also going to slow the car down, and it shifts the weight to the front. That's where you need it. You can also squeeze on the brakes until you feel them start to lock up, then let up, and do it again. And again, as many times as it takes. Remember cadence braking? This is where you really need it.
Obviously, if you're going too deep into a corner, you're probably trying to brake and the brakes are not doing anything because all the tires are locked up. A tire that is locked up is not slowing a car down. What you have to do is take your foot off the brake to unlock the brakes and start the whole slowing down process is very difficult. There's many things you can do, but I think the most important thing you have to learn is never to panic and always understand that you have a lot of options available to you. You have a steering wheel. You can change direction of where you're going. You have a brake pedal. You can change the modulation of your braking pattern. There's a whole bunch of things you can do.
The second of the two most common skids is the rear end skid, also known as the oversteer.
Oversteer is a term used when turning the car. The rear end does not stick and stay behind you. The contact patch on the rear tires break loose and the rear starts to come around. When that happens, you're supposed to steer into the spin.
As soon as you feel yourself going into a slide, steer into it. React quickly, but don't crank the steering wheel too much. The idea is to add just enough steering to stop the rotation of the car and get the front end caught up and leading again. So even though the car is still skidding, the skid isn't getting any bigger. That's all you're trying to do, stop the rotation. As soon as you feel the car begin to regain traction, reverse your steering so that you don't cause the car to go into a worse spin in the other direction. Timing is critical. The way to regain traction in a rear-end skid is to correct with steering, then accelerate. Now that doesn't feel natural, but remember, you need to get the adhesion back to your rear wheels, and squeezing on the accelerator shifts the weight to the rear right where you need it.
One more point about driving technique. If your car has manual transmission, or if you ever expect to be driving one, even temporarily, listen up. The gear shift lever tends to be the most abused part of the car. Some of us, and I won't mention any names, but you know who you are, tend to be a little aggressive on that stick. Sure, you're angry or you're stressed or you're trying to get there a little faster than you should, so you put a lot of extra leverage on the gearbox. Stop doing that.
Take your time with the shift. There's never a reason to rush it. Treat that lever as if it were made of very fragile glass. A smooth, unforced shift is one that gives you the quickest, most efficient change of gears. And it helps you to save on repair bills.
The important points here are to think ahead and to look ahead, so you can stay out of trouble to begin with. Remember, your car's going to steer better than it stops anyway. And try not to panic. The more you know about what's going on, the better you'll be able to stay in control of yourself and your vehicle. The more you know about the capacity of your steering and your brakes and the capability of your engine, the better. Reaction is everything in a situation like this. If you have to talk yourself into it or think about it, it's way too late.
Okay, let's do our quick review. Number 1, the line. The imaginary line which shows the professional driver the straightest path through a turn. Number 2, the apex is that point on the line when your vehicle is in its innermost position, closest to the inside of the turn. Number 3, cadence braking versus ABS. If you don't have ABS and your car goes into a skid, let up on the brakes and immediately reapply them again and again. If you do have ABS and you need to make an emergency stop, stay on the brakes hard and let your ABS pulse your brakes for you. Number 4, understeer. This is when you're turning your steering wheel, but your front tires are not turning the vehicle. Your front tires have lost traction with the road. Number 5, oversteer. Your rear wheels have lost traction and skid out behind you. When this happens, turn into the slide to correct for it. Then let off your correction to avoid sliding in the opposite direction. And number 6, use the gear shift gently and smoothly Do not take your emotions out on your vehicle. Hey, you're becoming a top driver.
Seems like just about every big-time movie and, of course, some of your better training videos have a major car chase scene in them. They're always exciting, especially if they end up in some big, spectacular crash. You see where I'm going with this? I thought so. Outside of the movies, there's nothing exciting or fascinating or fun about any of this. Nope. In real life, foolish, irresponsible antics on the road are dangerous and stupid. Here in the real world, one of the things that keep us from becoming yet another traffic statistic is our ability to communicate. Sometimes it's a conscious effort, like using your turn signals. But other times we communicate in much more subtle, even unconscious ways. And the best drivers are drivers that are in touch with what other drivers are trying to communicate. Say a vehicle enters a multi-lane road from the right and immediately zips over to the left lane. It's pretty clear the driver is looking to make a left turn very soon, even if that driver forgets to signal. Or that woman ahead of you who's turning her head back and forth excessively. Either she's got a very stiff neck or she's looking for an unfamiliar turnoff. And she's likely to make that turn pretty abruptly when she spots it. But we're concerned more here with ways that we can let other drivers know what it is we're going to do or what we want them to do. In order to have good communication with another driver, we have to establish eye contact. If it's legal in your area and you're not in a hospital zone, you might try a brief tap on your horn to get the other driver's attention. I said tap! That's more like it. Once you get the other driver's attention and make eye contact, you might nod your head or point in the direction that you want to go. Making a right turn is a four-step deal. 1, you get in the right lane early. 2, you signal at least 100 feet before the turn. 3, you yield to pedestrians and other vehicles. And 4, when it's clear and safe, you make the turn. Amazingly enough, the process for the left turn is quite similar. 1, signal well in advance. 2, if a safe turn can't be made immediately, stop before you enter the intersection. 3, keep your front wheels straight so you won't be pushed into oncoming traffic if some idiot rams into you from behind. And 4, when it's clear, complete your turn. Since so many fatal collisions occur in passing situations, some people must not be doing it right. First of all, you should ask yourself, is this pass really necessary? And if your answer isn't any better than, well, the jerk in front of me is going a couple miles under the speed limit, and I'm in a hurry, and I got things to do, and nothing. If you don't have a good reason to pass, then you shouldn't risk it. If you do have to pass, make sure that you're in a legal and safe passing area. When you're driving in the city, you got to be constantly alert for the unexpected. Reduce your speed. Whenever possible, cover the brake. And be aware that more than half of all collisions happen in an intersection. You can avoid most intersection problems if you use your head. Scan the intersection before you enter it, and keep scanning the whole time you're in it. You want to know exactly what you're getting into. Slow down and cover the brake as you approach an intersection. Make sure you signal clearly what you're going to do. And once you've made sure everything's okay, complete your maneuver. Driving in rural areas might not be as hectic as trying to make your way through downtown during rush hour, but it has its own unique problems. Intersections here are not as crowded, but they may not be as clearly marked, and drivers who don't encounter much traffic may not be as attentive. You also have to deal with slow-moving vehicles. Then there's the occasional animal to watch out for. The point here is simple. Know where you are and drive accordingly. No matter where you're driving, avoid following trucks or other large vehicles when you can. No matter how good your eyesight, you can't see much through the back end of a truck that's blocking your view. You need to be able to search ahead 10 to 12 seconds. That gives you a better perspective and assures that you won't meet with any unpleasant surprises. Searching that far ahead will allow you to at least keep a 2-second interval between your vehicle and the one you're following. That's the only way to be sure you'll always have time to react. And if you're getting ready to make a turn and it's clear that the driver behind you isn't paying much attention, bypass the turn. Making sure you have plenty of room between you and the vehicles in front and behind you is important, but don't forget the sides. It's also a great idea to wait a couple of seconds after the vehicle in front of you has begun to move forward from a stop. That way, if the other car makes what turns out to be a false start, you won't likely make what turns out to be a rear-end collision. And speaking of stops, you're required to obey street markings known as limit lines so vehicles have room to make turns. Some people disregard these markings so they can get a better view of the oncoming traffic. Not a smart move. What you want to do instead is make a safety stop. After you've made your legal stop behind the line, you move forward slowly until you can scan the intersection. If it's clear, you can continue on through. But if it's not, you're ready and able to make that second safety stop. We all know that oncoming drivers often cut the corner during a left turn. One good way to protect yourself from getting dinged by one of these drivers is to stay back from the stop line as much as 5 or 6 feet, especially on a 2-lane road. By doing this, you're also leaving enough room for buses and other large vehicles to negotiate the turn without leaving a lasting impression on your left front bumper. When you have to stop in traffic, the smart thing to do is to line up the leading edge of your hood with the bottom of the rear tires of the vehicle in front of you. If you could see a little pavement under his wheels, even better. If you're driving a van, though, it doesn't work, so give yourself about a car length. In either case, you'll avoid getting pushed into the car in front of you if you're hit from behind, and you've got enough room to get around the car in front if it stalls. All of these little tricks and techniques will serve you well no matter where you're driving, but maybe the most important thing of all is your attitude. Give yourself a reasonable amount of time to get where you're going. Try not to carry your problems in the car with you, and make sure you're comfortable behind the wheel. Do what you have to do to be able to take it easy out there so you can stay focused and alert. Hey, this is real life. You need all the tools you can muster. Okay, let's review. Number 1, communication with other drivers. Take notice of whether or not the other driver is noticing you. Making eye contact with other drivers assures you that they're seeing you. Number 2, be alert for the unexpected. Use your intuition and top driver skills to anticipate what other drivers will do, even if they're not warning you they're about to do it. Number 3, making turns. To turn right, get in the right-hand lane early. Signal at least 100 feet before the turn, yield to pedestrians and other vehicles, and when clear and safe, make the turn. To turn left, signal well in advance. Stop before the intersection, keep your front wheels straight. When it's clear, complete your turn. Number 4, scan the intersection. This is really helpful. As you're approaching an intersection, signal if you're turning, reduce speed, and cover your brake. At the same time, look all around to see what's coming from all directions, and when it's safe, continue through. Number 5, limit lines and safety stops. When you come to a stop at an intersection, don't roll past the limit lines. You may get clipped by vehicles turning left. After you've stopped, and if you can't see at the limit line, roll forward until you can see and make a safety stop. And number 6, leave space between you and the vehicle in front of you at stops. It will prevent rear-end collisions, and it also gives you an escape route if the car in front should stall.
It's important to be a top driver, drive defensively, and be in control.
You know, there's lots of things that make it tough for us on the roads. Add in just seeing at night or in the rain or any of those other aggravating tricks that Mother Nature has up her sleeve, like snow, sleet, fog, potholes, not to mention hurricanes, floods, earthquakes, pestilence. Okay, maybe not pestilence, but you get the idea. So we can't control Mother Nature. We can't control what other drivers are going to do either, but we're not completely helpless. We can control what we do under less than ideal conditions. Some of what we can do requires learning driving techniques and taking the time to practice them. Most of it is just pure common sense. First of all, you owe it to yourself and the rest of us on the road out there with you to make sure that you can see as well as possible. If you need glasses, wear them. Glare coming off of other vehicles, wet streets, snow, or ice can also be literally blinding. If you can't see where you're going or what's coming at you well, it only takes a split second to become a statistic. Same principle applies at night. If you can't see properly, you can't react properly. When you're driving at night, allow yourself more following room. If someone comes up behind you with his bright lights on, switch your rearview mirror to the night setting. And maybe even slow down or move over to the right, or just move into the right-hand lane if there is one, to encourage him to pass by.
When another driver comes at you with bright lights blaring in your face, slow down and briefly look away from the glare to the right side of your lane. Otherwise, you'll be temporarily blinded.
But don't retaliate by blasting him with your bright lights. Look, the other driver might be blatantly inconsiderate, but he or she is not issuing you a challenge. We don't need two blinded drivers on the road. You should be limiting the use of your bright lights anyway, to when you really need them. And most importantly, don't overdrive your headlights. Keep your speed down to a point where you'll be able to stop within the range of what you can see. And when you encounter heavy mist or fog, you better slow down and proceed with extreme caution. What you can't see can hurt you. If you use your high beams in dense fog, all you're going to do is get a lot of reflection off the fog itself right back into your eyes. Use your low beams. They're going to shine downward and minimize glare. The same is true for wet weather driving. Slow down and take extra caution. The truth is, the roads can be even more dangerous after the first light rains than after an extended heavy downfall. That's because the buildup of oil and grease are not washed away from the road surface immediately. Maybe the biggest problem in driving in the rain is the danger of hydroplaning. When your tires lose contact with the road and you're literally floating on a cushion of water. You can reduce the risk of hydroplaning if you make sure that you got good tread on your tires and keep your air pressure at the appropriate rated pressure for that tire. It also helps to reduce your speed and to try to drive in the tire tracks of other vehicles.
Well, the biggest thing you have to recognize is with the rainy conditions, you're not going to get as much grip. The car's not going to stop as well. It's not going to go through the turns as well. And you really have to be cautious of knowing where that edge is.
And when temperatures are near freezing, water on the roads may mean ice on the bridges because the temperature of the bridge surface is going to be a couple of degrees lower than the roadway. In fact, during the winter season, one of your biggest problems is traction. Your tire contact patches don't get any bigger in bad weather. And even four-wheel drive and ABS brakes aren't going to give you enough traction if you're driving too fast for the conditions. The best approach is to always figure that the road is extremely slick and that your vehicle's handling and performance are now extremely impaired. That'll keep you within kind of a winter safety zone.
The most important thing is the tires. If you don't have a good set of tires for whatever the conditions may be, if you live in the mountains, you got to have a good tire for the snow. If you live in some place that's dry, you can't have a slick tire when it goes to rain. You've got to have good tires because that's what adheres you to the road.
So avoid abrupt or exaggerated moves. Don't forget the concept of weight transfer. Hitting the brake shifts the weight toward the front wheels. Accelerating loads the rear wheels. And cranking the steering wheel moves the weight from side to side. If you hope to avoid skids, you're going to have to try to equalize the contact patches on all four tires. If you keep the image of those contact patches in your mind, you're going to be a lot less likely to overreact with the steering, stab at the brakes, or jump on the throttle. There's a trick for stopping on ice if you don't have ABS. Squeeze the brake gently until you feel yourself starting to slide. Then let off the brake. Give it a beat, then squeeze the brake again. Do this over and over, always maintaining steering control until you're able to bring your vehicle to a complete stop. If you do have an anti-lock braking system, don't pump the brakes. You should apply ABS brakes with a constant hard push on the pedal. And don't worry about the noise or the vibration.
And in certain circumstances like packed snow, ABS can actually lengthen your stopping distance. Know your vehicle and don't ask it to do something it's not equipped to handle.
A common mistake that winter drivers make is to rely too much on driving by the seat of your pants. When you're driving on a slippery surface, by the time you feel any loss of control, you've usually already lost it. Go by what you can actually see. If you can manage to stay alert and look in the right place at the right time, your vehicle's going to follow, and you'll get through potential trouble spots unscathed. Be sure that you're prepared for whatever happens. If you're going to be doing extensive driving in the snow, get yourself a good set of snow tires and carry chains and know how to get them on and off quickly.
No matter how well trained or experienced you are, no matter how well your vehicle is capable of performing, if you're overly tired, emotionally distraught, or suffering from minor illness or injury, you're simply not going to be able to perform your driving task as well as you should be able to. Elisa?
Good, thanks.
That problem is magnified considerably when driving conditions are poor. Don't try to take on more than you can safely be expected to do.
A word about drinking and driving. Don't. Many states these days have a zero-tolerance policy, which is pretty simple to keep track of. You get caught drinking and driving, you go directly to jail, and you can lose your license, and in some states, even your vehicle. Come on, you know we get to this sooner or later. Look, you're a bright person. You know the rules. We don't have to quote you statistics or show you gruesome footage or fatal crashes caused by drunk drivers. Bottom line, using alcohol or recreational drugs while operating a motor vehicle, it's not just illegal. It's dangerous and it's downright stupid. Even some prescription medications can affect your reaction time, your judgment, and your ability to function behind the wheel. And if you have any questions, check with your doctor. So get a friend to be a designated driver. Call a cab, sleep over. Just do what you have to do to avoid being behind the wheel when you're not in full capacity. Because I don't care how good a driver you are, you might as well not have any skills at all if you're going to allow yourself to be hindered with alcohol or drugs. Think about it. The other guys out there, they're already driving like they're a few sandwiches short of a picnic anyway. Imagine if we gave them all a few beers and turned them loose. Hopefully now you see my point.
All right, let's review. Number 1, overdriving your headlights. This is the dangerous practice of driving so fast that you can't stop within the range of your headlight beams. Don't do this. Number 2, slow down at night. Avoid headlight glare and use your night setting on your rearview mirror. Number 3, hydroplaning occurs when your tires lose contact with the road, and they're literally floating on a cushion of water. Number 4, when you're driving in bad weather, slow down, and as Danny Sullivan said, have yourself a good set of tires. Number 5, in bad weather, always assume your car's handling is impaired. It's going to take you longer to stop. Your visibility is always less. The roads may be slick or icy, and all of these hazards apply to every other car around you as well. Number 6, don't drink and drive. The consequences can be unspeakable. The same holds true when you're tired. Pull off to the road and get some rest.
Be a top driver. Be in control and drive defensively.
Okay, one of the key things you've learned about handling yourself on the highways is to stay alert and anticipate problems before they happen, right? Well, sure, it's the best way to avoid collisions and to generally stay out of trouble. Well, here's the news flash. You can't always do that. Things can happen out there that you just can't avoid. But you can, however, at least make sure you do know what to expect when the unexpected happens. And there are a few things you can do to help prevent trouble, all kinds of trouble. What do you do if your vehicle suddenly develops a serious problem? Or what if you find yourself in a personally uncomfortable or dangerous situation? One of the advantages of getting into the habit of braking early is that you find out sooner if you have a brake problem, and you can take the necessary action. If you apply your brakes and they're not slowing you down and your brake pedal sinks down to within an inch of the floor, pump the brakes several times. Downshift to a low gear, even if you're driving an automatic.
Hold in the release button if you've got one and apply your parking brake slowly and smoothly.
Okay, now that you're slowing down, flip on your emergency flashers and bring your car to a safe stop off the roadway. Your headlights aren't too likely to fail you, but if they do, it can be more than just a little scary. If it ever happens to you, here's what you do. Reduce your speed and switch on your emergency flashers. Switch your headlights on and off several times to see if you can get them going again. Then try the high-low beam switch several times. If you still don't have any luck, get your car off the road at the first safe spot. Now, a tire blowout, that can be pretty dangerous, especially at high speeds, but don't panic.
The worst thing you can do is slam on your brakes. What you do is hold the steering wheel firmly, ease your foot off the accelerator, and let the vehicle slow gradually on its own. Use your emergency flasher, and when the vehicle is under control, then brake softly and find a safe place to stop. And don't worry about ruining the tire. It's already got a hole in it.
Let's talk about engine failure or stalling. That can be the cause of aggravation and grief. It can also be the cause of getting rammed from behind if that failure happens in traffic or at a stoplight. And it's a lot worse if you've got power steering and power brakes, because all of a sudden you won't have either one. If you're driving an automatic, put it in neutral, restart the engine, and shift back into drive and then accelerate. If you've got a standard transmission, it's clutch down, restart the engine, clutch up, and then accelerate. And of course, if you can't get your engine restarted, get the heck off to the side of the road as soon as you can and find a safe place. Now, it's a really good idea to regularly go over and over the procedures for each of these emergencies, so make sure you do, because the more you know, the better you'll react, and the less likely you'll be to panic. So let's imagine the worst here. If you are involved in a collision, it's a very good idea to record as much specific information as you can about what happened, including license numbers and insurance information. Now, some states require that police be summoned if the damage exceeds a certain amount. Know your state requirements and follow them. The crime is on the rise, and so's the paranoia among those of us who aren't criminals. The chances of your being accosted, mugged, robbed, or worse are higher than ever. But there's plenty you can do to protect yourself and to avoid getting stuck in uncomfortable and dangerous situations. First of all, don't take foolish chances. Always keep your doors locked and your windows up. If you don't have air conditioning, crack the windows open as little as possible. And an open sunroof, pretty much an open invitation to the bad guys. Also, don't invite trouble by leaving valuables and packages out in plain sight. Put them in your glove compartment or in the truck. If you have to drive through an unfamiliar or dangerous area, do what you can to minimize your risk. Keep alert, scan ahead for individuals who seem to be loitering in spots where vehicles are going to have to stop or slow down, and try to avoid those spots. Don't be in such a hurry to rush to an intersection that just doesn't feel right. Time it so you can hit the green light as often as possible. And of course, you're not going to be able to do that every time, so when you do stop at an intersection, you don't want to get boxed in. Stay out of the right lane if you can, and leave enough space between you and the car in front of you so you'll have an escape route if you need it. And when you are stopped at an intersection, scan the whole area, front, sides, behind, for any activity that looks suspicious. If someone approaches your car in a way that seems threatening, like brandishing a crowbar that could easily break your window, get the heck out of there. It can also help to make a lot of noise. Honk your horn. Anything to alert others and spook the would-be assailant.
techniques that carjackers will use is they'll run into the back of another vehicle, and once they've got that person out of the car, then they'll jump into the victim's vehicle and take off with it. Best thing to do is wave the vehicle behind you over, exit the freeway, and get to a well-lit area where there's lots of people, or drive to the nearest police station.
Okay, that ought to hold you. Let's do our final top driver quick review. Number 1, brake early. As you're coming off the freeway, test your brakes. That way you'll know sooner rather than later if you have a problem. Number 2, don't panic in emergency situations. Whether it's a blowout, your lights failing, or driving through a dangerous neighborhood, or sudden obstacles right in front of you, stay calm and focused. Number 3, be familiar with emergency procedures. Review this module and run through the various scenarios in your head. That way, if they ever do occur, you'll be prepared. Number 4, steer around obstacles. Remember, your car's going to steer a lot better than it's going to stop. A perfect blend of braking and steering is always best. Number 5, personal safety. Don't invite danger. That means in unsafe areas, keep your sunroof closed, your windows up, and your valuables safely hidden from view, and keep your doors locked. Number 6, when driving in bad neighborhoods, leave yourself escape routes. Scan intersections. Stay out of the right-hand lanes. Leave space between you and the car in front of you and drive your way out of danger. Okay, that's it. The Top Driver video, workbook, and other materials have been designed to help you become a better informed, more skilled defensive driver.
You've gotten information about what to do and how to do it, on what happens and why.
You've gotten insights and hints from the pros. Now you've got to get out there and do it yourself. It won't be too hard.
For sure, driving in the modern world can be aggravating, frustrating, even dangerous. But you're better prepared to face today's traffic challenges than you've ever been before.
And you're head and shoulders above most other drivers. You're a top driver, and that should mean something to you. But hey, just think what it means to the rest of us that have to share the road with you. Thanks.